What's going on, guys, and welcome to another Doctor Who review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 15th Doctor Ncuti Gatwa story, The Reality War. It is Series 15, Episode 8, the finale, and yeah, before I even get started, spoilers, there will be big spoilers in this. I always have spoilers in my reviews, but I want to really mention it here before I get started, just in case anybody has seen it, hasn't seen it, and is watching this review. To be fair, I mean, kind of somewhat giving my thoughts on the episode already, I wouldn't really even bother watching this episode. I didn't like it. I'll just say that right now. But yeah, let's get into it with the cast. Ncuti Gatwa as the 15th Doctor. He is really good in this episode. He's gone out with a bang. Yes, this was his final episode. He regenerated at the end. We will for sure get into that later. But I think he put in a great performance. He hasn't had enough time, though. I mean, only 2 seasons is not enough. 8 episodes per season, 16 episodes plus 2 Christmas specials and a little bit in the giggle. So he's had, 18 episodes, 18 and a quarter, I guess, 18 and a third. And then when you counter in, episodes that he were Doctor Light episodes that he was barely in, like 73 yards and stuff, he's barely even had like 16, 17 episodes, which just isn't enough for a Doctor. Really unfortunate that we didn't get to see him again, because I have liked him more this series than I did the last series. So I think another series would have really cemented him and honestly would have put him up there for my favourite Doctors. I mean, it's hard to rank him at the moment, and I'm not going to for a little while. But yeah, he wouldn't be particularly high up, just mostly because he's just, the way he's written, I don't love, and he just hasn't had enough time, honestly, to really, get into the character. But yeah, performance-wise, Ncuti, as always, has done a very good job. And yeah, it's sad to see him go. Farada Sethu as Belinda Chandra. Yep, she's good in this episode, but I will be honest, I've actually been a little bit disappointed, a little bit let down by Belinda. Started this series actually really liking her. I mean, I still do really like her. I think on the most part, I like her more than Ruby, but she seemed to have a bit of, character development and was interesting at the start of the series. But towards the end, she just became really, I don't know, one note and not particularly, she never really had a lot to do. So I'm really, yeah, these last couple of episodes, and especially considering this is also her last episode, she just got stuck in a box for the majority of it. Like, she really didn't have much to do. And we'll get on to that later. I think this will be quite a long review. But yeah, a bit disappointed by her. And Millie Gibson as Ruby Sunday. Yep, she was good as well. Like I said, I don't think I like Ruby as much as I like Belinda, but at the same time, she was given more to do in these episodes, because I honestly think that this series was written with the thinking that Ruby was going to be the companion, but she didn't want to do a whole nother series, so she's here for these final episodes. So, but Belinda's the companion, and it's just a bit of a mess. But yeah, Millie does a good job. Right, let's get into this mess, shall we? Anita opens a time door and saves the Doctor. So it starts very interesting. Of course, the last episode of Wishworld ended on a cliffhanger with the Doctor falling, not even falling from a balcony, falling with the balcony down into the earth, which was disappearing beneath him. This episode opens with Anita from Joy to the World, the hotel woman. She opens one of the time window hotel time door things and, yeah, saves the Doctor. So convenient, interesting to see Anita back. I did quite like Anita. I felt like we had enough characters in this episode already to add another one. Was a bit like, okay, but I didn't hate that start. It was a little bit convenient, and you kind of think now, is she just going to be there to open a door every time the Doctor's in trouble like this? She won't be, but conveniently she is here. Anita saw other versions of the Doctor, so she's been trying to find the Doctor ever since he left. We saw a moment of, I think, the 3rd Doctor. We saw the 11th Doctor playing chess. That was a nice little one. And then we saw Ncuti's Doctor, the 15th Doctor, dancing very romantically with Rogue, and that's where she got all sad, because, of course, she had a crush on the Doctor and she didn't realise he was gay and all this sort of stuff. I didn't really care for that. I mean, the whole thing in Joy to the World, yes, they spent a lot of time with each other, but it just felt like a friendship to then put in, oh, she was actually attracted to him. Just, I would I would have been much happier with it just being a friendship. But it was nice at least seeing, those other doctors and those scenes from the past. How did Mel get her scooter to the top of Unit HQ? So they figure out that, yeah, the world ends on May 24th, all this stuff goes down, but then it's kind of Groundhog Day and it goes back to May 23 again, and things start going as normal, get to May 24, goes back to May 23. It's kind of this repeating cycle where it never properly gets to May 24th, and Unit eventually, they apparently have like microchips in everybody, and they manage to snap people out of this illusion there, this hypnotization that they're witnessing. And yeah, Mel comes to Unit HQ on a scooter, and yeah, just drives into the HQ, which is on like the top floor of a massive skyscraper. So what, did she drive her scooter into an elevator, sit in an elevator for 5 minutes, and then drive out of the elevator? Like, what? I know it's a silly little thing, but for me, it just was like, why? Poppy isn't real, but the Doctor is still trying to save her. So we get the whole thing with Poppy. Of course, we found out last time the Doctor and Belinda's child, apparently. But then it's revealed, she's not actually real. She's just part of this wish world thing. But the Doctor is still going to try and save her because that's what he does, and fair enough, But yeah, it just felt a bit like, okay. I mean, yeah, I don't know what to say. Unit fighting off the bone creatures. It was a nice, epic cinematic moment. One of the only cinematic moments, epic moments of the episode, to be honest. There actually, for a finale, wasn't a lot of action. It was more just talking, and we'll get into that later. But yeah, it was cool, them fighting off the bone creatures. Ultimately, those bone creatures didn't really do much. They were just kind of there as a big thing. You never really saw them actually do anything, to be honest. They started attacking Unit, but Unit just, yes, the whole Unit HQ tower turned into a giant gun, which I thought was a bit ridiculous. And yeah, it was a cool little fight scene, but ultimately didn't really serve much of a purpose. Omega is creator of the Time Lords, so what of the Doctor? So now this is probably, I've seen the 3 Doctors where Omega first appeared. I haven't watched Arc of Infinity yet, his other story, but I do understand that Omega, he basically, in old lore, was the one that created the Time Lords. However, that now doesn't make sense with the Timeless Children thing, because now it's supposedly the Doctor who was the first Time Lord, the first creature that was able to regenerate, and, he kind of started the Time Lords in a way, or he at least started Gallifreyans and the ability to regenerate. Maybe Omega is the one that actually, I think he's the one that actually kind of made Gallifrey and the Citadel and all that sort of stuff. So I guess that can make sense, but it's just something that I had a thought of in the back of my mind. Omega is a giant beast and he eats the Rani. I hated this. I really, really didn't like what they did to Omega. I was worried, after last season with Sutekh, they kind of ruined Sutekh. And yeah, last episode, Empire of Death, it was not a good finale. From what I've heard from people still, I think, like this more than Empire of Death. I don't. I think this was worse. I think this was much worse than Empire of Death. I think what they did with Omega was much worse than what they did with Sutekh. They didn't give Sutekh a lot to do in Empire of Death. They give Omega, I'm saying it weirdly now. They didn't give Omega anything to do in this episode. He just came out of his little tomb thing. He yelled a little bit, ate the Rani, so our new Rani's now dead. Cool. And then got blasted away by the Doctor. He uses the Vindicator to send Omega back into the underworld. It was the most useless appearance of a character I've ever seen. What was even the point of having him in here? I talked about last episode, last review for Wishworld. How are they gonna deal with having 2 Ranis, Omega, what's his name, Conrad, the baby. The baby was barely used at all in this as well. And essentially, Omega was used for 2 minutes and did nothing other than eat the Rani and disappeared. Our new Rani died, was eaten. Mrs. Flood stood around and then teleported away. Conrad, I mean, he didn't really do a lot either, but he was probably, in some ways, he was probably the best villain of the lot. With the way he kind of, with the way it ended for him, it was the most interesting, at least. But yeah, Omega, what a waste. I think much more of a waste than Sutekh. I think Sutekh looked better. I don't like the look of this Omega either. He's just Omega. I keep saying it differently, like the Doctor was, like Ncuti was. As soon as I saw the giant hands come out, I was like, we're just doing a giant beast again. Just like with Sutekh. But at least with Sutekh, I don't know, the face and that, it looked like Sutekh. This was just a big skeleton-y creature thing. It just, what a letdown. They saved Poppy by sticking her in a box, but now she's gone again. Okay, so what I think here, this series, I'm sure, was designed to have Ruby, designed to have Millie Gibson, and Ruby and the Doctor were supposed to be Poppy's parents. Because Ruby's not here, we have Belinda instead, which just doesn't really make sense, with the context of the space babies and stuff, but whatever. So because of that, they don't know what to do with Belinda. They just shove her and Poppy in a box, because when they revert the world back to normal again, them in that box will mean that, or at least Poppy in that box will mean that she won't get reverted, she will still survive, which is the case. But then they go to the TARDIS and they start handing back this jacket. I think it's like Poppy's jacket back and forth, the Doctor and Belinda, which is a really nice little scene, actually. I really do like that scene. But then Poppy's gone again. So the Doctor's just saved Poppy, done all this stuff, all this risk and everything, and now she's gone again. The 13th Doctor shows up in the TARDIS. Honestly, I didn't actually see... Okay, I saw one spoiler, and yeah, I said spoilers. I saw the Billie Piper spoiler before watching this episode. Unfortunately, I didn't see the 13th Doctor spoiler, so that was a surprise to me. And despite me not really liking the 13th Doctor, I actually really like that scene. I think it was great. I mean, yeah, she's not been gone very long, so would it be better to bring back a Doctor that's been gone for a bit longer, like Christopher Eccleston or something? I know he wouldn't come back under RTD, but, having Jodie be the one come back, yeah. But I think she did a really good job. Her acting was great. The thing with Yaz, I mean, I don't like the lovey-dovey Doctor stuff, but I liked that whole thing of, maybe I should say I love you to Yaz, and then Shooty's like, you never do. Very heartwarming, really great moment. I loved it. Only problem is, it kind of undermined Ncuti again, just like in his first appearance, where he was undermined by David Tennant. He's now kind of been undermined by Jodie in his final episode, so it's not great for him. The Doctor forces himself to regenerate to save Poppy, because of course he does. So she's gone, then she's back again, then she's gone again, and now he's going to regenerate to bring her back again. I mean, it's a very Doctor-y thing to do, but why? This just tells me that Ncuti wasn't originally planning on leaving this early, and at last minute he decided, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm leaving. So they had to come up with a reason as to how he's going to regenerate, and that's the reason they came up with. I just think I mean, the Doctor sacrificing himself for someone like the 5th Doctor did is big. This, though, it's not really sacrificing, is it? I mean, Belinda had forgotten about Poppy until, Ruby started reminding them about it again. And I just think it's just a really pants way for the Doctor to regenerate. Poppy was Belinda's daughter the whole time. Well, I say that, not really. I mean, but with the Doctor bringing Poppy back, he basically rewrites history to make it so that Belinda has always had Poppy, and the Doctor isn't involved. It's not the Doctor's daughter, it's Belinda and her partner. So basically everything's been rewritten from the very start. So yeah, I like that, I guess, but I don't. I really was just done by this point, honestly. And yeah, I mean, we've had the whole thing of the whole series of, You know, Belinda wants to get back to Earth, wants to get back home because she's a nurse, she's a doctor or whatever. She wants to get back to that, wants to get back to that life. Well, it turns out, no, she actually just wanted to get back to Poppy. That's now how it's changed. So, I don't like it when it rewrites everything like this. And then we have all the flashbacks that are slightly changed. And there was a lot of flashbacks in this episode. It just wasn't the end that I was after. And finally, Billie Piper is the next Doctor? Question mark? Maybe not. She wasn't introduced as the Doctor. It was because in the credits it was, Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor, Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor, and introducing Billie Piper. Didn't say as the Doctor, so maybe she's not the Doctor. The regeneration was a bit weird as well because the regeneration energy happened. Ncuti kind of completely faded away, and then Billie appeared, but the energy was still happening. So a lot of people are saying she's not actually the Doctor. I don't know how that's going to work because he has regenerated. So I'm interested to know how that's. I'm really interested to know how that's going to, be solved. I love Rose. She's not my favorite companion, but she's the one that started off the new series, of course. Pretty much the one that started Doctor Who for me. So she's big. I like Billie Piper. She's a great actress. I was really happy when David Tennant came back because he's my favorite Doctor, and that was like a big wow thing. But for this to happen on the other side of that same Doctor that changed from David Tennant, it's too soon for me. It screams desperation by RTD. It really does. It screams, oh, the show's not going very well. We brought back David already. Who else can we bring back? We'll bring back Rose. I'm very worried about what they're going to do with this. I was worried with David Tennant a little bit, and in the end, I was happy with what they did there. With this, I am quite worried. Whether the show even comes back or not is another question. But for me, this was a bit like, this is pure desperation on RTD's part. So there we go. That was the Reality War. An absolute mess of an episode. For me, this is easily worse than the two-part finale from the last series. Definitely, because I liked Legend of Ruby Sunday. Empire of Death kind of shat on it. But for me, Wishworld, it was okay. It was fine. This was awful. I hated this episode. The main plot of Omega and the Rani finished halfway through, and then we had the most boring. It was like an over an hour long episode. It dragged on for so long for that last half an hour, figuring out what's going on with Poppy, and it just felt like, we got to halfway through, and Omega was defeated, the Rani was defeated, the world was back to normal, and I was looking at the time like, we've still got like 35 minutes to go. What are we going to do? And it was so boring. I was really bored by the end of this. A rating out of 10, I'm going for a 3 out of 10. That might be generous. I just really think this is, for a finale, it's poor. For a final episode for a Doctor, it's very poor. And yeah, they didn't. I was worried about how they were going to, fit in the Rani, Mrs. Flood, Omega, Conrad, the baby. They fit it in. They fit them all in by just getting rid of them within half an hour. That's how they did it. So yeah, it's a 3 out of 10 for the Reality War. Very disappointing episode to end this series. And to be honest, probably my least favorite episode of this Ncuti era. I'd say my least favorite episode since, probably like, was it the girl who died from like series 9? No, sorry, I forgot Jodie's episodes. There's like the Saranga Conundrum and things like that. Okay, it's the worst episode since something in Jodie's era, but yeah, for me, an absolute mess, 3 out of 10. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.